All right. What's going on, Cashflow hackers? It's Chris, Life 180. Got Charles here. We just got done with the Mastermind Retreat with Life 180. Charles and his family.
We're still here.
Graced us with his presence. They're hanging out here. Come on over this way a little bit. For a bit, they're staying here for, man, it's like an extra good clip of time here.
Extra couple weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So with that, he's doing a lot of stuff to help us out. They're spending some time doing some sightseeing, and we're just creating some content, and thought that the fun topic for today would be talking about the mindset for success for life insurance agents, because at the end of the day, I think your mindset is going to dictate your success or failure with anything. One of my favorite joking quotes I like to talk about is Mike Tyson says, "Everybody's got a plan until I punch him in the face." And, I feel like that's this business. Everybody kind of gets in because they like it. And then they're like, oh, it's going to be so great. Everybody's going to love what I have to share with them. And I'm so excited. And then they go talk to people and it doesn't go so well. Right.
100%.
And so you got to learn to finesse your story, your communication, to share your story, to increase your authenticity, all at the same time while building your product knowledge and education, and building your marketing and building your own brand, and making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that you trust and that you can be mentored through all the different use cases that life insurance can be used for. And so there's a lot to manage, right?
100%. I mean, like you said, there's so many different factors involved with becoming an agent, and the statistics are stacked against you guys. Like, what is it? 3 years, 95% of agents will fail.
Yeah, like 93. Yeah,
93. Like your odds are pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
So that when I came into this industry, I knew what those odds were. So it's like you kind of got to just go in with that mindset that no matter what, you're just going to persevere, because that's the number one thing that it takes to be successful in this industry. And you're going to have times where you're questioning, what the hell, why am I doing this in the first place, right? And
it's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I put on a lot of the marketing and content and everything that I do is the little delta sign, which is like the change sign, like in math, or the triangle, the pyramid. It actually, the delta symbol, they call it, is a symbol for change, right? And so that's why I kind of did that around, if anybody ever sees it and is questioning why we did that. But I heard this talk one time from this guy who was talking about, the fact that everybody has a life that they want to live. But at the end of the day, our life that we're looking to create, is dictated by the actions that we take. And the actions we take are dictated by our thinking. And so everybody, like most people, not everybody, but most people have this drive to just kind of be like, all right, I'm going to create this life. But it's like everywhere you go, there you are. And it's, if you have the life you have and you say, well, I want this other life. Well, you probably already have this other life if your thinking was already in alignment to get you it. Like, we're on this constant growth curve, right? This constant journey that we're expanding through and struggling through and stretching through and all these things. And so I just have really gotten from the place of, and my whole story is evolving, right? Like the way I teach is constantly evolving because
100%.
I'm going through my own journeys. And I think, like, if you're an agent and you're in this business, I've been doing this 15 years now, and how I communicate, if you go back to my videos from 8 years ago, they've changed vastly, right? And that's because I've changed a lot. I've changed in the way of my own education. I've changed in the way that I communicate these things, because as you do this stuff on a regular basis, and if you're really trying to serve people, you better be evolving. You better be changing things in a way that evolves with it, because if not, then you're just going to become stagnant and you're not going to grow and you're not going to get different results. And so you have to constantly, what I call plan, do, check, adjust, PDCA, make a plan, go out and do it, check the results, and adjust where necessary. And I guess to me, it seems kind of common sense to do that, but at the end of the day, we just moved down here to the Dominican. We bought a hotel. We're running this, and this was completely driven by my thinking. And I could tell you, like, last year, the reason this happened specifically is because for me last year, I went through a lot of things, even though I was kind of thinking about this and doing something like this for a long time, I went through some personal growth that forced me to really start thinking about and emotionalizing how important it was to me, right?
Yep.
And why, from a core values perspective, this was like a non-negotiable. I had to do something like this. And because my thinking started being in alignment with my subconscious, I was able to actually act from a place of belief. And I was able to then take that actions, and that created where we are right now. Now, this isn't the end of the journey, right? Like, hopefully this is,
I feel like this is the
right?
beginning of the journey right here. Yeah.
But that's the same for everybody. Like, you get into this business and you have this perception of what you think it is. I would say, don't hold on to what that perception is, right? Like, don't, talk to me about your journey, about, okay, because you've been doing this for just over a year now.
Yep.
You've had struggles.
There's been no shortage of struggles, guys. Like, struggle after struggle.
Right.
But that's one of the reasons why I got into this business, is because entrepreneurship and this industry, I don't think there's a better way to self-develop yourself into a different, more like just a better person.
I love it.
All the way around. So, I mean, from the beginning, I knew it was going to be a challenge. I absolutely knew that what I was getting into was not going to be easy. But that's part of me, is like, I want a challenge, right? And it's been more challenging than I thought it would be. So I would really just sit and think about, like, if you're getting into this industry or thinking about this industry, know that if you think it's going to be hard, it's going to be harder than what you think it is, right? And then so it's just like, well, how do you become a good agent? How do you start talking to people about, as life insurance agents, you're talking about two things that people don't want to talk about: death and money. People get weird about these things, right? And so
it's just normal to me.
It's normal to me too. But
it's true though.
But we're the anomaly.
Yeah.
Right. So then how do you communicate with somebody in an authentic way where they're not like, oh, what do you stop talking about that? It's making me uncomfortable. Right. And then figuring that whole aspect out with working with clients, because those are hurdles that you have to figure out and overcome.
For sure. So what, for you specifically, what have been what are a couple of things that when you got into business, you thought it was going to be maybe easier, or you thought you'd find faster success, or like things that you thought, like, okay, because you obviously didn't get in thinking you were going to like struggle. Like,
no.
knowing it's going to be hard and knowing you're going to struggle are two different things, right? So what did you think? What perceptions did you have coming into the business, and how have those perceptions changed throughout your journey?
So I got into the business because I wanted to be good at sales. And then I met Chris. And he's like, we're not selling. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, we don't sell.
How are we going to sell if we don't sell?
It's like, how am I going to make any money? And so then I had to basically unwire my thinking and then rewire what he's talking about. He's, the way Chris sells, he doesn't sell. He has a platform where you can self-educate, and then he just presents ideas. And then if you align with those ideas, then, he hopes that, somebody connects with him, and then he has a lead, and then he talks with the client. And when he's on the call with him, he goes, he might not even talk about life insurance the entire call. It's just about building relationships. And so that whole paradigm shift took me a while to just like wrap my head around. But I think it's so much of a powerful way to actually, create business, right? Because you're not telling somebody, they're educating themselves and reaching that decision on themselves. So therefore they don't have buyer's remorse, right? Like, so much of like sales is like sell, sell, sell. And when you do that, somebody will walk away and there'll be buyer's remorse, and they'll be like, why did I do that? And, taking that pressure away is revolutionary, but it takes a lot more time, right? And so that's another mindset you have to have, is you might be doing a lot of foundational work and not making very much money, but you have to understand that you're laying down those foundations. So in the future, you can grow this this empire, and it's going to really impact a lot of people. But in the beginning, you might not see the fruits of your labor up front.
It's interesting because like this business has been very analog for a long time, right? For 180 years. People have just been belly to belly relationships, all these different things. And now we're in this information age. And I heard this analogy one time. It's the equivalent if you go to like these villages in I don't even know where, but pick anywhere. Like it could be the Amazon or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like Dominican Republic. Yeah, we're here. So let's call it Dominican. And so you take these villagers and imagine like the village has, everybody has a need for water. So imagine that, these villagers have buckets of water and they got to walk 2 kilometers to get water every single day. Think about the inefficiency in that, right? So like what life insurance agents are doing is they're grabbing their buckets of water and they're going, all right, or they're grabbing their buckets and they're being like, all right, over there is my sail where the river is, right? I got to walk to the river. I got to fill these buckets up. I'm going to take all day and I'm going to walk back and hopefully I don't spill it all. Hopefully I have the physical energy to get back and carry these things, and that water will sustain me and my family and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that, you don't have to do a little bit of that out of the gate, but while you're doing that, you also have to make sure that, you're doing something else. And so in this analogy, and I'm totally butchering the story that I heard, but they were talking about the fact of building a pipeline, right? I think it was Robert Kiyosaki that I heard talking about this actually. But it wasn't in related to sales, but it's the same concept in what we're doing because we're trying to build systems. And so rather than, he was using this analogy where he's talking about these people, these villagers just walking, getting buckets, and then all the while where they're watching, this guy is over there and he's like building this contraption. They can't figure out what it is, and they keep watching all the while. They're like, how's this guy going to survive? And like he's doing a little bit just to get by, but he's building this pipe, and eventually the pipe reaches the river. And when it does, boom, he turns it on, and he never has to, he's just freed up all this time, right? And now all of a sudden he's got this flow coming in and he doesn't have to worry about it. And all the other, villagers are looking at him like, what the heck? How do I get some of that?
Yeah.
And building your system online, building your authority platform, I think is really important because it's gonna free you up. I can tell you, like for our Life 180 channel, I mean, we've, create a lot of revenue just through this. We educate people, we educate agents, we educate clients. We get a lot of agents that join the team because of the quality of the education we provide. We get a lot of clients because of the quality of the education we provide. And it didn't happen overnight, right? I had to do things kind of the old school way while I was building, and I could not rely on this. And so I think that's the challenge from a thinking perspective, is thinking that it's an either or situation when it's an and situation out of the gate.
Definitely.
You got to do both. And you got to think creatively. You got to think about what you want to be known for. You got to think about like what you're excited about, what you're passionate about, what you love about this the most, how you want to communicate that. And you got to build your authority platform. And at the same time, you got to eat, you got to feed yourself. You still got to take that trip to the river every now and then, to do the work and do the analog thing and do the physical labor, like belly to belly, so to speak, going to networking events, talking to people, reaching out to friends and family, old colleagues. And I know I get a lot of people. I was talking to somebody the other day. He's like, I haven't talked to friends and family yet. I was like, why not? Do you love them? Of course I love my family. It's like, well, why haven't you talked to them yet? Well, I'm worried they're going to judge me. And, for me, he's either worried about being judged or rejected or something like that. And in that scenario, what he basically told me is my ego is bigger than my love for my family, right? Because there's no way around it. And I'm not saying that judgmentally, that's just the way it is, right? And so I understand, I've been there, I've done that, I felt that way, right? And I'll tell you what, I had one time where my best friend died and I didn't do what I needed to do. And I swore to myself that would never happen again, And I just encourage everybody to think about the fact that you have, with this information, if you truly believe in it, then you have an obligation to share it with people. This is, make no mistake about it, it's a love-based decision. It's a character-based decision based on your own values. And I'm not saying character good or bad. I'm just saying, like, to me, good or bad from a character perspective is, what are you portraying yourself in the world to be? And are you living accordingly to those things, right?
100%.
And from that perspective, I look at it and I go, oh, there's a lot of people out there that say they love their family and they want all this and that, but they don't have life insurance. And you know?
Yeah.
And they say they value certain things, and then you look at their money, it's like, whoa. If I look at your profit loss statement for your family and your life, like it's not, you're not really valuing what you say you value, right? Like, and once again, that's okay. There's a massive lack of education. That's why I love to do what we do. And I think from an introduction perspective into the business, when we talk about like, all right, what's the mindset for success for agents? I think we need to get past our ego, and we need to align with people that we trust, that we know are not going to sabotage relationships with the people that we care about the most, right?
Yep.
And I think we need to really get past our own fear of rejection and realize if I'm doing this and I love it, I'm sharing it with people that I love the most first. I need to share this with people that I love. And why would you not? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's been your experience with that? How's that gone for you?
With reaching out to friends and
people
family?
that
I've in the beginning, right, I didn't always approach it right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I just be like super upfront with somebody, and I've almost damaged relationships, and it's because I didn't have the right tools and the right mindset to approach it in the correct way. So I'm glad that I didn't actually ruin those relationships, but I was like,
so can we talk about this a little deeper? Because you're like an extreme personality when it comes to this. And I think there's two sides of this coin, right? There's the people that don't do it, don't talk to family because they're scared of rejection. They're scared of, their family's opinion. And then you did it. And then what happened, and you've told me, hopefully you don't mind me saying, but like it angered you, right? Because you believe in this so much that you literally, it didn't almost damage relationships because you were pushing it on them. It almost damaged relationships because like you would tell them and then they were like, whatever, man, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you weren't upset that you were getting rejected. You were upset that they didn't get it. And you're like, what the hell?
What is like, what is your problem? Like,
how do you not see this?
You don't care about your family, even if it's just a term policy. You don't care enough about your family just to have a term policy. It's like, that's a little weird to me. Like, and like to the point where I don't even want to associate with those people because they're not in alignment with what I believe.
It's tough,
so
yeah. And those challenges are real, and so what I think though, we can't control what people do, right? So I think from a thinking perspective, and we think about our thinking leads to our actions, right? And our subconscious has to really believe in it to actually act upon it 100%. Consistently, predictably, And from that perspective, we have to look at it through the lens of like, I can only control what I do. I can't control, like if I'm selling you, because I believe in it and I think it's a value add to your life. And then you say, Chris, Heisman, no, like not happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then I just have to be like, listen, I tried and he doesn't get it. Yeah. And there's a statement that I learned once upon a time is some will, some wait. Some will, some won't, some wait, so what, right? It's not my job to convince you of anything. It's my job to expose you and show you the information and allow you to make your own decisions and allow you to take your own journey and allow you to go down your own education. I've had plenty of clients over the years that I've done this that have said no and then come back to me 4 years later, right? Which is crazy, right? But that's the power of having a platform because now they can stay engaged and you're staying top of mind and like that's the pipeline that eventually if you do this and you stick around long enough and you do enough to just get by, because I promise it's going to be hard, right? That's how it can work.
That's the power of playing the long game, right? Mm-hmm. There's what I like to say is the longer you stay in this industry, the more opportunity finds you.
Yep.
But in the beginning, it's likely you're not going to see that much opportunity. You're not going to see that much income coming in. So just be prepared for that. I'm fortunate because I was able to do it part-time. And so right now I'm like slowly transitioning into becoming a full-time agent. And that path has not been easy, but it's a path that I want to pursue because the lifestyle that it provides and the freedom that it also provides as well.
Talk to me about that. Your part-time status, you have a successful job. Most people would kill for your income. And you're in a situation where you work more part-time than most people work full-time. And your focus and your like time management and discipline and relationship management and balancing of everything talk to me about that, because I think there's a lot of people that have been interested in joining on a part-time basis, or getting into the industry on a part-time basis. And if there's a lot of people that are full-time that maybe need a checkup from the neck up kind of deal on all this. So talk to me about your why behind all this, and and how that motivates you to kind of do what you do.
So I started off, or I'm a blue collar worker. I'm at the pinnacle of my blue collar career. And I looked around and I go, if I want to make any more money, I can, because I'm already working as many hours as I possibly can. And so I needed a bigger challenge. And that's what attracted me to, getting into life insurance, infinite banking concept, all of those different things, and just the personal growth that you get from that. But so in the beginning, I'm working a full-time job, and on the side, I'm trying to learn the product knowledge, trying to learn the business, trying to increase my communication skills. One of the big things is changing your identity of who you are, because we get stuck with labels. We get stuck with, right?
Totally.
We get stuck with saying that we're one thing, even though that's just a label we put on ourselves. So Matt Seibert, he's the director of agent development. He said he himself went through 3 identity changes to become the man that he is today. And he's this amazing human, but there's a lot of pain and like being uncomfortable to get to that point. And so understanding that to be successful in this business, you're going to go through those things and you're going to be uncomfortable. When you feel that being uncomfortable, that's a sign of growth, right? And that's so powerful. So I'm still going through it. Like every day, I'm just like, oh man, like there's just like this feeling in my gut, like, what are you doing, right? This is like my spidey senses are tingling. But what's on the other side of that is beautiful, right? And like Chris said, as you build those systems and as you push that rock up the mountain, once you get it to the top and it starts rolling down and it builds momentum, that's when the beautiful thing happens. And I've talked to like a lot of people that have been in the industry for a long time, and they all say like the beginning sucks, guys. But once you get to the other side of it, it's such a beautiful thing.
And I think you hit a super, super important point, which is the identity shift that comes along with being in this industry. Don't make any mistake about it. The world knows how hard it is to do this. That's the reason why most people don't do it. The world knows what the failure rate is. The world knows that you're going to have a hard time, right? So when you get into this business, when I got into this business, guys, I had gotten done with a 7-year professional poker playing career, right? So imagine being me, going to my friends and family, being like, hey guys, I know you all know me as a professional poker player, but now I want to manage your money. I want to help you with your life insurance and protect your family and all these things, right? Like I could not sell anybody I knew, right? And I was scared to death to try, because I was worried about that. Like I wanted to slowly build my authority. I wanted to slowly establish my authority and slowly build some success. That way, when I would go to my family, at Thanksgiving, everybody would be like, what's Chris doing these days? Well, he's no longer playing poker full time. He's now doing life insurance. Do a couple of years of that. And maybe if he's still doing that a couple of years later, maybe then, we'll have a conversation. And there's so many problems with that line of thinking, right? And there's so many levels of exposure that you kind of keep the people that you care about the most, exposed to. There's no guarantee that your family's going to work with you. There's no guarantee they are even going to care about this. There's no guarantee that they're going to want this or will prioritize it or anything of that nature. It's not your responsibility to convince anybody to do this or to do anything. What it is your responsibility to do, in my opinion, is to align your actions and activities with your own values and beliefs, right? And that's why I love your story so much, is because he doesn't need to do this from a monetary perspective. He wants to do this because of his values and his beliefs. He wants to do this because of the lifestyle that it could create, because he's owned by his job, right?
Correct.
And even though you have a good income, that's not what your values are about. Yes, you want to make a good income, but it's at what expense, at what cost? What's the opportunity cost to your income, right? Like what's the lifestyle cost to your income?
What's the cost of your soul being sucked from you from going to a job that you hate every day, right?
Exactly.
That's huge.
And so, what I think is important as you get into this business, though, is really aligning and not selling it. I think too many people make the mistake of being like, I want to get in to sell, which, you know, is what you did, but you've learned and realized really quickly, you know, drinking through a fire hose effectively. You know, what I think is really important is to make sure that if you're going to do this, don't just go sell it, and don't be just some used car salesperson trying to hawk life insurance in all these traditional ways, because people are gonna see right through that crap, quite frankly. Be a product of the product, so to speak. Be somebody who does this not because you need to sell it, but because you're passionate about it, because you believe in it, because you're doing it for yourself, and your values tell you that you need to do it. That's the first step. If you haven't done that, it's going to be impossible for you to convince anybody else that they should be doing it for themselves.
Correct.
And in my opinion, it's downright, like, it's borderline fraud, right?
I agree.
I mean,
100%.
like, how could I sit down with you and be like, you know what you need to do? You need to do this, and go get life insurance and convertible term and whole life insurance and do all these different things. If I'm not doing that for myself, how can I impose that on you when I'm not even like, there's an incongruency and a hypocrisy behind that.
100%.
And either it's fraudulent, or it's like, you're going to see through my bull crap and it'll be what it'll be. Right. Whereas if you just, you know, do it yourself, get your own policy, protect your family. Now you go, wow, okay, I believe in this. I love this. I see what it's doing for me. I want to share it with other people. Now you have a story to share. Right. Now you get to share your origin story, and it's kind of like the hero's journey, right? And you get to,
and that story could take a little bit of time to develop, right? Because like you go through underwriting, you get the policy, you start utilizing the policy, right? You might not have that story right away, so that's why, you know, sticking with it, that's where the magic starts to come and play, and just being true to yourself, sharing your story, that's huge. I mean, if you talk with Chris, he just shares his story, right? And that's just what he does. And so, you know, Chris had a Life 180 mastermind that I attended, and that was like my big takeaway, is developing my authentic story that I could communicate with clients and friends and family and say, hey, this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, this is how it's helping me, and that's magic right there.
Totally. Come this way a little bit so you don't fall off camera. There you go. So we got a question. Hey, what's up, Logan? What would you guys say is a reasonable ramp up time frame to get to the point where you're making decent money? What are some realistic expectations for someone starting from scratch? Okay, so I'll say this. I got to qualify that question a little bit and say, what's decent money even mean, right? For you, decent money means something way different than decent money to somebody else. But I would say typically you are your network of people that you spend the most time with, right? And so for somebody making $50,000 a year, and that's your network, you're always going to be able to kind of look at it through the lens of what's it going to take to replace $50,000 a year of income? What's it going to be to replace $150,000 or $250,000 in income? Depending on, I mean, I've had engineers get in this business. I talked to one the other day, you know, and he was making $300,000 a year, you know, and he saw the infinite banking concept and all whole life stuff, and he fell in love with it. He did it for himself, and after like 6 months of having his own policy and playing with it and utilizing it, he's like, I need to share this with all my friends. And he got licensed on a part-time basis. And now he loves it so much that he's like, I want to get out of my job. Like, he's so passionate about this and sharing it with people that he's like, I can't, like, I hate my job now. He didn't hate his job going into it, but it's just like, he loves this so much. And he's like, wow, this is where my passion is. You know, this is where I want to share. I want to share everybody going through what I was going through. I want to share this with them. And so that's a story, right? Like, that's a powerful thing. But for him to replace his income, it's $300,000 a year. It's a lot more than, you know, somebody making $50,000 a year.
And so he's either doing a lot of production with smaller policies, or he's doing a few, you know, less production with bigger policies. And so that question is really hard to pinpoint. Because there's a lot of different factors. It's like, well, how open are you? You know, what's your starting point?
How coachable are you?
How coachable are you? Right?
How willing to
be uncomfortable are you? All those things are, you know, like, are you willing to go out and speak in front of an audience and generate leads? Like, there's, you know, different factors involved with that question. But what I would say is, either have an income on the side and transition into it,
Yeah.
or have a sum of money, some money that you can burn while you're making that transition, right? Like have that savings. And if you're going to hit it full time, then just, you know, the cash flow takes a little while, right? Because you have to go through underwriting. Like it could take 6 weeks to 2 months, even 3 months before you, from acquiring the client to going through the whole process, could take a while. So that's going to take some time too, and that psychological effect on you may take its toll. So that's another reason why the failure rate's so high. But once you can generate that cash flow, once you can generate consistent leads, that's where the magic comes into play.
Well, I think there's the power of being able to do it part-time. You know, we don't fail, we learn. Fail forward, right? You know, it's one of the things that I think is so important with this is like, you know, Brian Mansell is saying we don't fail, we learn. It's John Maxwell wrote a book, Sometimes We Win, Sometimes We Lose, but he crossed out lose and wrote learn. Yeah. Right. And it's true, you know, like you got to be willing to put yourself out there, and you got to look at each kind of failure, quote unquote, as an opportunity to just, it's that plan, do, check, adjust. It's like check the results, and a loss is an opportunity to check like what's working, what's not, and pivot. You know, make little micro shifts. You know, we say in marketing all the time. You know, I do a lot of marketing, and I've done a lot of marketing over the years. You cannot get emotionally connected to the results. Like when I put a funnel together and do ads and whatever, so often people do this stuff and they launch the ad and they spend thousands of dollars and they're like, nothing. Yeah. It didn't work. And then you're like, oh, this sucks. It didn't work. And you know, you can't get emotionally connected with those results. You just have to look at it and look at it like, all right, let's look at the analytics. Where did it go wrong? What was the click-through rate on the opt-in video or the opt-in message on Instagram ad or Facebook ad? What was the click-through rate on the funnel page, right? You got all these different points of conversion. It's no different when we're talking to people. We have all these different points of conversion,
100%.
Right? Yep. Our introduction, when we're sharing our story, when we start talking about the nuances of how the products work, when we start talking about like, what are the first steps to get started, when we start going through the underwriting process, when we get through like all these different things, they're all conversion points. And what it's your job to figure out is not be emotionally connected with rejection and failure and all these things. I guarantee you, if you look at each step and you're like, all right, let's figure out where are you getting? I guarantee if you look at your business and you look at your conversations and relationships, you're like, I always get people to a certain place and then it just kind of goes dark. Yeah. It's not an accident. It's not a secret. Like just look and figure out like, where are you stopping? Maybe you're like, can't get people to even talk to you. Okay, we'll start there. You know, like,
but don't just do that. Like, it's so important to have a mentor, somebody that's been through the whole process and can like pinpoint the issue, right? Like having somebody to talk to, being mentored, that's such a huge part of becoming successful. If you look at the top producers, they've all had a top producer teach them and guide them to the point that they're at, you know, today. So just, you know, really finding that coach and finding feedback from people that have the knowledge and have the skill and have been there to really accelerate your progress is super important.
And
calmer.
And I would say that whoever you work with, you don't want them to just be creating a little clone of themselves. I don't want Charles to try to become me, right? Because we don't have the same story. We don't, you know, we have different upbringings and different people in our networks and, you know, different ways of communicate. Yeah, exactly. And the worst thing to find, and it's why I hate the WFG model, quite frankly, is because they're all being like, success is in the system. Just do exactly what I do, show up how I show up, talk like I talk, all these things. There's no individuality behind that. And that gets life sucking eventually,
100%,
right?
Yeah.
And it might make you a little more money, a little quicker. There's no doubt like that I'm not even going to dispute that. But if it's worth doing poorly until you're good at it, I believe. And from a long-term perspective, I don't want to build you so you can make a little bit of money over the next 3 months. I want to make it so you actually build yourself into an asset that you'll be here in 20 years, you know, doing this. That way, you know, you can actually grow, and the compound effect of how this industry can provide income is otherworldly. Like it's amazing, you know, and the opportunity, if you just do this consistently and predictably and you evolve and you invest in yourself, you know, to become the asset that you need to be to add value to your clients' lives. That's what it's all about. And so, you know, I would just say, you just got to be, I'm too handsome to try to be you guys. You're funny, Brian. That's awesome. And you are. I don't know what to say to that. I don't know what to say to that. But, you know, but I think that's really, really key. Make sure whoever you're working with, they're not trying to turn you into somebody you're not, right? Like, and that makes it hard, right? Because when we're at the mastermind, we've got all these people going around being like, all right, what's my story? And I can share my story and I can give coaching, but it literally takes sitting down one-to-one and figuring out, like, what's your story? Yeah. And there's frameworks, there's processes, there's all these things to be able to create it. Yeah. But I can't create Charles's story for him. And I can't test it for him. I can't, but what I can do is give him a little feedback on processes, on frameworks, on communication styles that have worked for me. Not exactly what I said, but how and why I said it, and the framework behind it, and the journey, and sharing the story, and all that stuff. Yep. And who I shared it with, and kind of like when to, you know, weave in certain parts of the story. That's the coaching that can happen. But he's then got to go out and do it and fail and, you know, build his story, see where it breaks down, see where people are super engaged. And then when people disconnect and he's like, shit, lost another one. Like, you know, and rather than be sad about that, take accountability and responsibility for realizing, like, all right, I'm obviously not communicating something properly in that way. Right. Or the way I am communicating it is losing people. And that's nothing to be upset about. That's something to be excited about when you identify that, because you can do something about it once you know. Correct. And you can improve. Right.
So one of the things that I'm so grateful with Life 180 and being part of the team is the autonomy that Chris has built, because that's the anomaly in this industry. Like, it really is an anomaly. I would say, you know, going into any agency, any depending on where you go in with skepticism. And the reason I say that is because there's so many moral hazards with the way, and, you know, IMOs are structured and what they want to, you know, whether it's a product like an IUL, they try and push those, or whether it's just the structure of the company, or if you own your own business or not. Yeah. Go in with skepticism and say, like, is a product that you're selling going to do what it says it's going to do? Like, that's huge. Is the person that's coaching you, are they just going to keep all your business, or are you actually building your own business? Yeah. Right. Ask those questions so you're educated, and you don't, you know, spend 3 or 4 years of your life and then realize that you're trapped because of who you joined. And that's what I'm grateful about joining Life 180. And I went in, you know, skeptical, and you did. Yeah, it really did.
You did.
But, you know, like, really, like, understanding who Chris is and how the agency is formed and, like, the intentions behind it is why I'm still here and so excited for my future.
That's awesome. I gotta divert the conversation a little bit here for a second, because somebody asked a question and read that whole life insurance is used for the infinite banking concept. Do you guys know if that is the case, or if IULs can also be used? What do you think? I'm going to try to answer this without turning the rest of the video about this topic. I've got a lot of videos on this. I would go check out my IUL playlist. You can go to the youtube.com/@life180 and go scroll down below. There's an Index Universal Life training playlist, and I actually have videos on why Index Universal Life does not work for infinite banking. It's a really elaborate conversation, but for the sake of this video and wanting to answer your question, I will say infinite banking cannot be done with IUL. I would really, really encourage you to go watch those videos, learn from those videos. I literally have, I don't know, like 112 videos on a playlist. And you can just search IUL, infinite banking, Life 180 in YouTube, and some of the videos will probably come up. Or go to the channel and you'll find them if you go to the main profile page. That said, you got to be really, really cautious, because at the end of the day, the whole purpose of infinite banking is to what? Take over the banking function of your life, using a savings alternative to a savings account in a bank, using your policy loans instead of using bank loans, right? You're controlling the flow of money, right? And so in order to do that, the foundation of that policy has to come with certain guarantees and certain performance that are going to, you know, beat what the bank does on a guaranteed basis, and also provide additional benefits, which are the banking function and then living benefits and other things that come with it. It's all great. IUL just simply doesn't hold a candle to what whole life insurance does there. When you look at the surrender charges early in the policy, when you look at the risks from a long-term perspective, when you look at the fact that the guarantees suck, like all these different things, like that IUL agents just like to kind of sweep under the carpet and pretend they don't exist, because don't worry, that'll never happen. Well, it's one of the reasons I created the IUL challenge, is because of the fact that IULs never perform the way that they're sold, and that creates a lot of problems for a lot of people. And when you start injecting policy loans into the mix, which, let's face it, if you're going to do infinite banking, that's the only reason you're doing it, is because you want access to capital and you're going to use policy loans. Well, when you start injecting policy loans into an IUL, you are injecting so much risk into the equation that it's like eye-rollingly laughable, right? And all I encourage everybody to do, run an IUL illustration, run it with income, run it with loans, and then look at all the little extra disclaimers and caveats and whatever that the insurance company has to put on these illustrations, basically saying, if you take policy loans, you're going to void this benefit. The no lapse guarantee benefit for the first 20 years gets thrown out the window. Everybody's like, oh, we got a no lapse guarantee on this policy. Well, if you plan on using it for real estate, that goes out the window, because you're going to take a policy loan. And when you take a policy loan, it voids the no lapse guarantee, right? Yeah. So it's all these things about IUL are sold as tax-free retirement income and liquidity, cash value access, all this stuff. But if you read through the illustration literally says, if you touch your money, all these benefits go away. Like, and there's a bunch of them, right? Yeah. And so I have different videos for all that stuff, but it's something that you really, really got to be cautious of. So, yes, exactly. Brian is an amazing testimonial of those. So it's awesome. So thanks, man. All right, what else we got? So the idea is change your thinking, change your actions, change your life, right? So if you want to, you got to reverse engineer a plan, right? Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Figure out where you want to go, reverse engineer a plan to get there, right? Your actions are going to lead to that result. Your thinking are going to lead to your actions. It's one of the reasons I created this worksheet, and I'll show it here. And if anybody is interested in this, I got to figure out a way to get it out there to people. But I created a values and beliefs guidebook that we're doing for agents, and we're actually going to be creating this for all of our clients.
Let's make a PDF. And
this is a PDF.
Drive leads.
Yeah. So what this is about, though, is helping people get really clear about what their values, what their beliefs are, what is their long-term vision, aligning with their core values, and coming up with what your own personal mission statement is about what you want to create in life. And when you can come at it from this perspective, and you lead and you make every decision through your life, getting clear on your core values, what your vision is, and what your mission statement is. If you don't start with that, it's going to be impossible to make money decisions that you feel fulfilled by. Does that make sense?
100%, yeah.
And so I think what we need to do is we need to get really, really clear on this. And I think our job as agents, one of the reasons that I'm doing this for all of our Life 180 agents to have access to be able to share with clients, is because I think it's a game changer. I don't think it's for everybody. That's why I always get hesitant to be like, I got a new sales presentation for you, or I've got this new PDF that's going to help, or I got the Life 180 X-ray, like financial questionnaire. I've got this, like I create all these resources, and my fear is that agents go, ooh, that's a thing. I'm going to just make every client do this. No, your job is to have conversations, build relationships, and assess and like figure out with somebody, ask them questions about their values and beliefs, right? Yeah. This is a way that you could actually start doing this and get them to open up to you without even talking about money, right? It's amazing. But you have to start with the relationships and the conversations first and foremost, My fear, and I'm saying this for the Life 180 agents out there, because I know I'm going to release this to you guys soon, and whatever. Don't just take this. Don't just see it and be like, all right, this is just, I'm going to blast everybody I have with this. Like, I'm not going to work with somebody unless they do this. Like, you have to look for the right people. You have to provide the right people with the right tools. Is like, I would say, I don't know if everybody knows, I wrote a book called Executive Job Search Secrets one time. And one of my big marketing clients once upon a time was an executive search firm. So they helped, C-level people find a job. And I would always say is like, you have to sell yourself when you're at that level of position. You're not job hunting. You're selling yourself as a product in the marketplace, right? And when you're doing that, you have to literally look at yourself and be like, all right, if I want to differentiate myself in the marketplace, I have to show up differently. I have to, ask different questions. I have to lead from a different kind of spectrum or perspective, right? And control the conversation and sell myself differently. That's really what it is. You're not job searching, you're selling yourself for positions. And it all comes down to values. It all comes down to like identifying problems and articulating solutions. That's what it does. I could come in, you could be hiring for anything. That's why I swear I could go get any job I wanted, because my gift is being able to talk to somebody and identify problems, right?
And then fill that gap.
Yeah, and fill the gap.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I could literally, with a little bit of research, go get almost any job, because I'm great at relationships. I'm great at asking questions, identifying challenges, and then figuring stuff out, right?
Yep.
That's it.
100%.
Stop selling life insurance and get really good at asking questions, building rapport, getting to know people, figuring out where they're dissatisfied, where there are gaps in their life. And then it's your job to understand the product side so much, to understand the value that we bring to the table, understanding what core values we're able to align with the most. So when you hear them or identify with them, whatever, you're able to kind of connect the dots for people. That's it.
Yep.
This is not rocket science, folks.
It's not. But this business is huge. Like it's a language business.
It is.
So that like for me, like I just went on a journey to like figure out questions and how to ask questions and different like right. So
yeah,
like to the point where like created assessments and it's just all about asking questions and building that rapport.
Yeah.
And really, coming from a service of wanting to help people.
Totally. So I think that's good. That's good. Anybody have any questions before we bounce? Like, hopefully this is helpful, because, at the end of the day, I'm looking down at my computer down here and the camera's up there. So it always feels weird. But when it comes down to it, your thinking leads to your actions lead to the end result that you're after. But your core values, your mission, your vision, that's got to be the filter that you run every decision through. We talk to people about that with money. You got to align your money with your values and beliefs to be successful financially, but you also got to align your career with your values and beliefs, right? That's 100%. Why he's making money, but he's dissatisfied. He's unfulfilled,
Big
right?
time.
He's
Big
miserable,
time. Yeah.
right? So that's why he's found this business and, kind of gone from there. If you want to get a hold of us for help, there is, you can go to agent.life180.com and set up an interview. If you're an agent and you're looking to potentially join the team, something of that nature. But as far as, that goes, you can meet with Matt. I'm super busy right now, and I don't usually take initial calls unless there's something really unique. And if there is something really unique that you'd like to address, just email chris@life180.com, and I'm happy to, at least do my best when I can to help you out. Hazeltine. So Logan says, to quote a very successful friend of mine, I hate talking to people. Well, if you hate talking to people, you're going to struggle in this business. Let's go through these questions. Do you suggest agents expect feel some resolve? I say 6 to 12 months. Yeah. I mean, I think depends on how much time you're putting into it, right? Like how much time are you dedicating to growing yourself, to becoming who you need to be, to provide the value to the people you want to serve, right? Like it's going to be a growth thing, right? It's going to be you growing into that asset and stretching yourself. And the 6 to 12 month mark is realistic for most people, simply because most people aren't willing to work harder to get faster results, or they're following the wrong information. I mean, we talked about this the other day too.
Or they're doing the wrong activities.
Yeah, we talked about this the other day too. It's like too many people are busy, doing nothing. Is like
busy doing bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you do the busy work. And I heard it was actually cool. Like during the retreat mastermind, we were talking about this, and my wife actually kind of was in the background listening, and she's like, okay, I got to talk. And she came up and talked, and she said, the one thing, and the one reason I think Chris does really well is because he's really good at focusing on what are the activities, even if he doesn't like to do them, what are the activities that are going to move the needle, that are going to produce a specific result that he's after. It's easy to get caught up in the busy work. It's easy to just be like, well, I did all this stuff today, so I'm busy. And you may be busy, but you also may be avoiding the things that you need to do, right? Because they're the hard things, right?
And one of the examples is cleaning your house, right?
Working at home.
Yeah,
your house.
like if you have a home office, instead of cleaning your house, it might be better just to keep pumping away at those income producing activities. And that might be a little counterintuitive, but if you're wasting your time doing busy work, then you might not reach the success that you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true. And, other things are marketing and design and stuff like that. You get caught up like building your website and like, just get a website up. It doesn't need to be perfect. Like,
doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Like Hazeltine says, I think most strategies offered to agents are written by extroverts for extroverts. I don't know that that's true. I think maybe most are. Maybe most strategies are.
I'm an introvert. Like me being on camera with you guys, that's like my spidey senses are tingling.
He's sweating. He's nervous.
Sweating.
It's just
my hands are shaking.
Starting to smell. No,
that's the jungle.
But I look at this and I you know what, I think he's probably right. Most books, most trainings are, but I think this is the important part of really get out of your head, get into your heart, try to serve people, try to make connections with people.
And in addition to that, introvert, extrovert, that's just a label you're putting on yourself. You don't have to stay that way.
Yeah, an introvert. So by the way, I would define introvert and extrovert. I guess the technical definition that I've heard is not, are you good at talking to people or do you want to? It's just, where do you get your energy? I'm an extrovert. I'm not going to shy away from that. I get my energy by being around people. We had a whole team in here. I was working 18 hours a day and I was on fire for it. I love it. I got my energy by being around people and serving and doing that. That's where I get by. My wife is an introvert. If you were to meet her and not know that, you'd be like, this woman is the most like extroverted person I've ever met. She gets drained by it though. She can perform. She's really good at it. She enjoys helping people, but it also sucks the life out of her if she does it too much and doesn't have enough alone time to recharge. Right. So, introvert, extrovert, if you're shy or you're scared, I would, and I know that's not you, Logan, but like if somebody else is struggling with this, I would say, it's a belief thing, right? 100%. It comes down to your belief. If you don't want to talk to people, that means typically you either don't believe in it enough, you don't believe in your thing, so you don't carry that responsibility, right? Like I will talk to everybody and anybody that I meet about this because I believe in it so much that I feel like I have a responsibility to share it. It's like that, you keep saying spidey senses, with great gifts come great responsibility, right? Like that's a Spider-Man quote for you. So, like I look at that and I say, I believe I have an obligation to get out of my own way. I believe I have an obligation to not let it be about my ego. It's not about me selling anything or, whatever. It's about me realizing if I meet somebody and don't have a conversation with them, there's a chance that that person is going to be worse off, right? And if you think about it through that lens and you go, wow, my only obligation is to expose somebody to this idea. I can't force them to do anything. I don't want to force them to do anything, to take the next step. But if I believe in my heart of hearts that that person is potentially going to be better off by having a conversation with me, don't I have an obligation to do that? Because not doing that, the only reason I wouldn't is my own ego, my own fear of rejection, my own fear of like how I'll be perceived or, whatever. Like that's it. Yeah. And once you realize that and you really internalize that and you can subconsciously kind of like surround it. And I'll say the only way you can subconsciously get to that place is a level of belief. And the level of belief has to be, you're either doing it yourself, somebody in your family has been drastically impacted, somebody you care about that maybe you didn't serve or you saw that didn't have this in place, had a massively negative impact by not following these strategies. So it's real to you, right?
100%.
This has to be real to you to be able to believe it. You have to see it, feel it, touch it, know it in your own life. And I've got my own stories. And the more I do this, the more bold I become, the more convicted I become, the more experience. And that's only because the more experience I have with my own life, with my own use. We're down here in the Dominican, everything that we have pulled off here because of all this, right? I've got my father-in-law that I've shared the stories a lot about the living benefits and how it saved his life from pancreatic cancer, right? Yeah. We have the story of my best friend who died because I didn't do enough. Yeah. And well, he would have probably died anyway, but because it was an acute situation, but his family wouldn't be suffering still to this day.
And so right? If you don't have your own stories, borrow somebody else's, like borrow Chris's story and transfer that
Totally.
over to the people that you're trying to help. And if you're fearful about reaching out to somebody, just remember that fear is an inch deep and a mile wide. So just, getting through that inch of fear, it's beautiful on the other side.
One of the things we did, it was really fun. I equated it to, so we did at the mastermind this week, we did a zipline excursion, right?
Yeah.
It was really fun. We had 3 people that were scared to death. Matt, if you're still on the call here watching, but we had 3 people that were scared to death of zipline, and this is the largest zipline in the Caribbean. Okay, and so we go up there, and we're at the top, and we're overlooking this massive valley for the first, after this big massive hike that basically like destroyed a couple of people, right? And so they're up there, and they're tethered in, and I remember one of the ladies, will remain nameless, but she's grabbing the rope, like death gripping the rope, right? And she's like, I got this. I'm like, yo, you don't need to hold on to the rope. Just sit back, like roll with it. You're good to go. Like do a backflip or something. And she's like, no, I'm holding on to the rope. And she's like sweating. She's like, my hands are so sweaty. I'm so scared. I can't grab the rope. I'm like, it's okay. Just sit back, lift your feet, go. She was so scared. She started, she stopped, she started, she stopped, she started, like 10 times. I got it all on video. It's amazing. And then she finally goes and she screams and she gets down to the end, and I get hooked up and go follow her down. And I get there and I'm like, how'd it go? What was it like? She's like, that was scary as shit. She's like, that was like one of the scariest things I've ever done. I was like, but did you die? She goes, and then she started laughing at me. She's like, Chris, you're such a dork. And so then I had her hook in next. I had her like skip the line and go. I was like, we're going next. And so she was, still hesitant. She did it. By the 4th time, she was going and hooking in and excited. And it was like the thing that she was scared about the most, she realized there was nothing really to be scared about. Yep. And then she could settle into it and go. And she realized that it was more fun and enjoyable. That sounds like a weird like correlation, but for people that like deal with that fear, those little things is one of the reasons we did the zip line, right? To help people push through some of that and go through those exercises, right? And it was not by accident, right? And so when you go into those situations, it's no different when you're talking about talking to people and selling and trying to communicate and exposing people to new ideas. And, you realize if you gamify it and just realize it's fun, have fun with it, their response and their opinion of you, it's the 4 Agreements. You ever read that book?
Yep.
4 Agreements. Their opinion of you is none of your business. Just go do your thing. That's it, right? Like, so I would say, think about it through that lens. It's never as bad as you're afraid that it is. Their opinions of you are never as bad of you as you think it is, or they are. And I would say just be willing to step into the fear. Be willing to just like sit back into the zip line and let it roll, because it's going to be fun.
And be authentic.
Yep. That's it. So, all right, guys, if you found value in this, please like it, share it, get it out there to people. If you have a team, you have agents, somebody that I think this conversation would be extremely valuable, beneficial. So share it with them if you can, if you get the chance, because I think this will serve a lot of people in this business that are, maybe trying to figure out how to make this work, maybe trying to figure out how to get past their own barriers, their own self-limiting beliefs, their own, hang-ups that are holding them back. So that is it. Until next video, have a blessed, inspirational day. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thanks, brother.